Yeah. Just FYI, I know yours. We're still muted. Okay, thanks. It's going. Busy, can you hear us now? Yes. Okay, busy is probably. Michelle, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Where? Take a minute. I want to see you take laps around the room to find your name. Want to sit here? We were expecting. It was lovely. Well, made me happy to make it here. I love your life.
I just,
Everybody.
based off my experience from last week. Good morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to call to order the Mountain Line Transit Advisory Committee meeting, November 5th at 10:01. Rhonda, will you want to please do call to order?
Thank you. And then members of the TAC, Coconino County, Andy Bertelson. Excused. Coconino County Citizen Representative Carol Covington, present. Thank you. City of Flagstaff, Joanne Penny, excused. City of Flagstaff Citizen Representative Michelle James. Oh,
I'm here.
I'm sorry, I see that County Manager Bertelson has joined us. Thank you.
Morning.
Metro Plan Dave Wessel.
Present.
Thank you. NAU Aaron Stump.
Is it here or present? Is there a correct?
Here.
Here.
Here. CCC Kurt Stahl.
Here.
Our Economic Development Representative Gail Jackson, excused.
No, oh, she's here.
No, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Writing down.
Sorry. And then we have our NAU student Isha Saida, and I don't see her on. But so. Okay, we have members of our staff members in the room and online. And it's your turn. I'm sorry, to leave one. That's what I was just gonna say. I don't have Cameron Stanley on yet. So, and who else just joined? All right. Did you see?
Busy came back in. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Busy, can you hear us this time?
So the only person we're missing that I'm aware of is Cameron Stanley, our intern.
Thank you. The next item is our safety minute, and I believe Cody said that.
Morning, Transit Advisory Committee. Can everyone online hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Cody Weaver, HR Manager. I will be leading the safety minute on behalf of Sam Short today. Today's November Safety Minute is Slips, Trips, and Falls. November is Slips, Trips, and Falls Awareness Month. We should all focus on the increased risk of slip, trips, and falls due to winter weather, such as rain and snow. The following tips can be used to help prevent a slip, trip, or fall incident while out in the elements. Be aware of the weather conditions. November brings rain, frost, and snow. Assume all wet or dark patches are black ice and walk with extreme caution. Wear your company issued ice and snow traction devices. If you need a pair or need to replace your old pair, please contact the workforce director, Sam Short. You're up for the season. Wear shoes or boots with good support, slip resistant soles, especially on damp or potentially icy surfaces. Walk slow and steady. Bend your knees and take shorter steps so you can maintain your center of gravity over your feet. Report hazards immediately. Notify facilities if you notice a wet, icy, or cluttered area. Use 3 points of contact when entering or exiting your vehicle or bus. This will help you maintain your balance if you happen to step out or in a slippery surface. By using these safety tips, you can prevent slips, trips, and falls this winter. Thank you and welcome to the November Transit Advisory Committee meeting.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is milestone anniversary.
So good morning. For the month of November, we have one milestone anniversary to share. And that is for Bruce Morrow, who's completing his first year in the role of transit operator. Bruce actually came to us from the Cottonwood area, where he was at one point in time the program manager for the CAT system. For those of you who've been around a while, Mountain Line operated the CAT system. And when we left Cottonwood in Sedona, we left them in the capable hands of Bruce. Bruce has now retired from that role and taken on a driving position here. And he's fantastic. Our customers absolutely love him. So congratulations to Bruce, and thanks for letting me celebrate his 1-year anniversary with you.
Thank you. Next item is call to public, and we do not have anybody at this time for the call to public. Our next item is to approve the minutes from our 9/4/25 meeting. Do we have any recommendations or changes to the minutes?
To approve.
All right.
Second.
Carol. All right, everybody in favor of approving minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Minutes approved unanimously. Next item is insurance policy. This limits requirements. Heather.
Good morning. This is an item that I don't recall if it came to you as the Transit Advisory Committee. We did take it to the Board of Directors. It is the result of challenges we have again faced in placing our insurance. So as just background, Mountain Line has had in the past a requirement of $30 million in liability coverage, which we placed over 3 tiers of coverage. Back in 2014, I believe, we started facing challenges in placing that amount of coverage. The board amended the master IGA with permission from all of our partners to bring that to $20 million. And at the time, they actually wrote into the IGA that it is $20 million unless otherwise directed by the board. And part of that is because we anticipated that we would continue to face challenges on insurance. So we came to the board with a discussion about our policy. So here on this screen is our history. You can see we placed it with 3 different carriers. Excess liability are those coverage limits that cover for catastrophic events. 6 million with Travelers is our primary coverage, meaning it's our baseline coverage. It's $1 million per incident plus 5 million for an event with multiple reasons. And then Transit Re is a cooperative. So we buy into a self-insured risk management pool for that of 5 million. And then we had Great American sitting over it at 10 million. When we went to renew these policies in June, on June 26th, Great American told us they are no longer offering $10 million in excess coverage for our July 1 renewal. So we started working quickly and furiously with our carriers to figure out what to do. We went to the board in August. Oh, by the way, Great American gave us an extension of 60 days to try and figure it out. So they did allow us to do the 10 million excess coverage for 60 days, ending August 30th. So we came to the board in August at the August 25th board meeting. We really thought it was just going to be a matter of more cost, that we could still get the 10 million. It was just going to be more expensive than we had anticipated. And what happened between the August TAC meeting and the August board meeting is it became abundantly clear, not only was it going to cost more money, it was impossible to do. So we were looking at $16 million in coverage. That's actually what we recommended to the board, is that instead of the 21 million, allow us to bind the 16 million. It was going to be a $300,000 above and beyond budget cost to do that because those excess layers have become so expensive. The broker that we contract with now, which is Insurica, does a lot of insurance work in the transit space, actually attended the meeting, talked with the board about the pros and cons. And at the end of the conversation, the board actually recommended that we go with $13 million in coverage. That $300,000 over budget was just to get us $3 million of excess coverage. Some things that went into that conversation is the fact that we have never had a claim. And I know never is not necessarily that it couldn't happen, but it has not happened, that we have a claim that actually leaves these excess layers of coverage. All of our claims have actually been covered in our baseline travelers coverage of 6 million, which is what is required of us as a transit agency under state law. So we're still exceeding what the state requires of us, but bringing it to an amount that is more fiscally or financially feasible for us in light of that coverage. The challenges that we're having on insurance coverage are not a result of our accident trends. We actually have a very clear and clean safety trend. So just wanted to update you on the direction that the board has given us. So we did bind the $13 million of coverage. The board did ask us to come back in the spring with a consideration to actually drop it another 2 million to 11 million. We're also pursuing taking our $6 million in coverage out of the travelers pool and putting it in another self-insured risk management pool. So our deductibles would be higher, but long-term our premiums would be more stable. And that's what we're seeing is that the industry, there's not as many carriers in the transit public sector space as there were 15, 20 years ago. And so what we all bought because it was relatively cheap and there was plentiful supply of doesn't exist today. But what we know in our accident trend in history is that we've also been overbuying our insurance. And so this was a financial decision, but it is grounded in what we know to be factual occurrences for us. So this is what our coverage will look like. Again, that 6 million with travelers. We've maintained the 5 million in our excess layer with Transit Re, and we've moved to a new carrier for us, Futuristic. All of these do meet the requirements for being A+, and if Sam were here, he could give you all the language, and I could have 10 years ago, but I can't today. But these are all really good carriers. So we're very proud to place the insurance, but I wanted to provide this update to you because this item did skip the Transit Advisory Committee. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I will mention we did contact each of the risk managers at our partner agencies, CCC, NAU, City of Flagstaff, and Coconino County, to tell them about where we were at, what our challenges were, and what our recommendations were, and none of them had concerns with making this change.
Thank you, and I can take this question offline if you don't have the answer now, but I'm curious, Mountain Line has had a great track record. Is there anything happening industry-wide that is causing things to go up, or is it just lack of competition?
Anyone can open a paper and read the headlines about what's happening in large systems where we're running light rail systems, where we have challenges with electric vehicles, where communities are facing new challenges with crosswalks and intersections, et cetera. So I would answer your question as the industry is facing more claims than it has ever faced before. In addition to the fact that the industry, insurance across the board, not just in transit, is facing their own challenges as we see flooding and weather and fires. Like I said, what was readily available at low cost to lots of people in the past as the safety net, they've had to tighten that because that safety net has been used in many, many instances.
Thank
you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. I probably should have stated at the beginning, there's a few items that we're going to cover here at the beginning that were covered at the board meeting, but Heather and her team believed it was important for us to have a presentation of those items. Next one is the Transit Advisory Committee structure. That's also
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I did send an email regarding this item, but I didn't want to just put it on the board agenda without offering one more opportunity for your input and questions. So I just have a couple of slides that illustrate a couple of points from the email that was sent to you that are now captured also in the staff report that's in the packet that will go to the board of directors. I want to be clear, this report currently says that there's no recommendation. My goal is to update that staff report with a recommendation after today's discussion, but I wanted one more opportunity for your feedback. So the first thing that was really important in considering, is it time to restructure the TAC, was what are the TAC responsibilities as captured in our master IGA? And if we restructure the TAC, how do we ensure these things still happen? So the TAC will still serve as an advisory role. It will continue to meet. I did note that it says or as required, which gives us permission to change whether it's a monthly meeting or less frequent. We will still review operational and intergovernmental issues, as well as financial plans and funding opportunities. The TAC will still have an opportunity to review staffing, administration, and capital plans. We think that staffing and how we administer those capital plans is key to what we plan to do, which is one of the things I want to do a better engagement with the TAC on. Review of ridership enhancements and consider liability issues. Additionally, there will be the opportunity to consider and comment upon staff recommendations. So the TAC will still see, where is staff going? What do we think those recommendations are? They might be a little more high level than they are right now, because you're seeing them in the format in which we plan to take them to the board. And we might still be vetting that. We might still be developing it, but it will offer the TAC an opportunity to really participate in some of that recommendation setting. The other things that were captured in here is convening public meetings on behalf of transit. That's actually performed by the board and has been performed by the board for many years. We do a call to the public at these meetings as a courtesy, but this meeting actually does not meet any of the regulatory requirements for it to be a public meeting. And then, of course, there's the opportunity to review and comment on policies affecting NAPTA, which we call it. The proposed changes are really to expand who serves on the Transit Advisory Committee. One of the things that we have found, MetroPlan set up a management committee meeting roughly 3 years ago, maybe a little more than that. And we find that the city manager, the county manager, leadership from NAU, and then Mountain Line and ADOT, we have a lot of these conversations. And then the city manager and the county manager participating here, this is not that same level of engagement. And what we're missing is the opportunity that we gain with many of you, which is engaging the right staff on the projects that we're working on. I don't actually expect Andy to understand some of the traffic pieces that we need to understand in order to make bus route recommendations and changes. But if I have the right people in the room, then those folks could better engage on those conversation items. Additionally, we would look at adding members to this group that don't exist. This came out as a recommendation to maybe look at adding a writer or adding someone from a human service agency that we serve so that they can participate in some of those service planning conversations. And then, of course, the big one is moving to quarterly meetings. We do struggle with getting quorum at these meetings on a monthly basis. And I don't know if we're all very busy people. I don't know if the topics are just not engaging enough to make people excited to come to these meetings, but we're hoping some of this transformation encourages that participation differently. And then, of course, I'd like to move it away from the public meeting just because it's not required. It's a lot of work to post them as public meetings. It creates a conflict when you're taking public comments and the boards are taking public comments separately. It allows us to streamline some of that. And then the one thing that I want to ensure is that we have the opportunity to take all the feedback from these meetings. They'll still go to the board of directors. So I'm proposing a quarterly report of those conversations, a summation report that goes not only to our board of directors, but to that MetroPlan Management Committee where the city manager and the county manager are already serving in roles. So basically that was the recommendation in the staff report. Overwhelmingly, I heard support. I really appreciate, I'm gonna call out Dave Wessel a little bit. He gave us some food for thought about without a TAC, who's doing that administrative review that we have benefited from so much in these meetings and ensuring that we cover that. How do we know what's going to be on those quarterly agendas and ensure that they're robust enough to encourage the engagement that we hope to get out of them? And I appreciated that feedback. I heard nobody say this was a bad idea. I heard no one say don't do it. But again, I wanted to take a moment here in this meeting to confirm that before I make a recommendation to them. That's everything that I have for my presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I know people have already gave other recommendations. If anybody have questions or
No question, just a comment. I mean, I've been on TAC for over a decade, and I will say, I can probably count on one hand the number of times we've ever had anybody from the public talk. I can only think of one, but I'm gonna guess maybe up to 5 in over a decade. So very supportive of the changes. I would say, I would hope that the difficulty with quorum is more busy. I don't think it's the topics, and I completely agree that I hope that I often there are comments made in here that I do hope help you guys as you're preparing for the board. And while I'm all for quarterly meetings, given busy schedules, will that impact your planning for board meetings? That'd be my only thought.
Thank you. Yeah, just to echo some of those, and reiterate some of the points that you made on my behalf. Just the lead time, you know, we have a similar quasi quarterly schedule with our TAC and Metro Plan. And we have gotten out of sync with some of our projects where to keep the project on schedule, we've moved ahead without consulting the TAC because we have to wait for 3 months. We have had situations where, you know, we intended to discuss something with the TAC, we weren't quite ready, and so the presentation was a little shallow. And we have had to combat that, supplement that, we started going with project advisory groups. Many of the same members on the TAC, but it's to drill down on a particular project. And we see, you know, some benefits from that, and we can keep things on schedule, but keeping those two groups in sync. Same issue with representative bodies, like, are you actually communicating up the line? And so, yeah, it's just gonna take, I think, some more coordination. But, you know, let's give it the old college try and see how it works.
I'm all for that.
I think
I'll just try.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, this is Carol. I would just like to add that having experienced other organizations or groups in which I participated, it's easy when you break it down to quarterly, that then when you do meet, there seems to be, oh, what was the status of this, or what was the status of that? And you spend a lot of time trying to figure out what you did last time, if you know, how do you bring it forward so that there isn't a lot of time spent rehashing old material or old business. And I don't know that there's that much of it in the TAC, but I would just offer that as a comment too.
So would you, if I could respond to that, would you consider the same quarterly report that goes up to the board? Maybe it's a similar report that comes from the board to the TAC, even if it's just after each meeting where we can summate or even send you all the minutes to ensure that you have those, but provide those, what were our takeaways to help cure that problem in advance of meetings to prep for them?
I think that's a great idea.
If I can add to that, Mr. Chair, for the master plan effort that's getting ready to kick off, our intent, we'll see how successful we are, is to really master that 1 or 2 page brief. And so that there's regular communications going out, so that we're not playing catch up, and that we're keeping the various bodies informed so that we can get right to the meat of the issue. We'll see how we do, and that sounds similar to what you just proposed, so yeah, let's work on fine tuning that for all our sakes.
Andy?
Oh, yes, thank you. Heather, I really appreciate the recommendation. I think trying to fine tune, to use Dave's terms, is helpful. I can assure you that for my attendance with TAC Management Committee, it's not topic related. It it truly is a schedule related issue, and I need to be able to align my organization to attend the meetings appropriately, and then ensuring that I'm informed appropriately as well. So I know that's my intention here at the county. My intention is to attend, and schedules become difficult at times. So we'll ensure that we get the correct people involved. So thank you, Heather, for thinking about how to fine tune the process.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. The only other recommendation I had to Heather was maybe having someone from the board sit on this, just so they can get the gist of the conversation, even though it may be a recommendation X going forward, but at least if that board member will be able to reflect the entire conversation that happened during that process. So that was just one of the suggestions I had.
No.
Gail?
Hi, Chair. Thank you. I just wanted to say I agree, and Heather, thank you for bringing this forward. I think there's a lot of us that serve on various committees in and around, and it's not that we don't care about transit, we do, but it's 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 hours every other month is a lot. And I think going quarterly is a really good step. And I like the idea of the quarterly report. I think that gives the flexibility for those of us that serve on this committee to be able to read and see where it's moving forward. So I agree with your recommendations, and thank you for putting them forth.
Thank you.
I want to be clear. I wasn't trying to say anyone didn't value what we talk about. Sometimes I feel like our conversations don't have the right in the room. And while I need Andy as the county manager to be a participant in decision making, I often need Andy's staff to participate in the conversation to get to that decision. And that's really one of the things I'm trying to
Yeah. Heather, no offense taken whatsoever. I hear you. Yeah, we've talked about this, so thank you.
Coffee gifts all around. Thanks, Andy.
Do you feel you have a good?
I do. Thank you. So we'll move this forward to the board because they ultimately get to decide as a recommendation, and I will update it with kind of some comments shared here, and definitely Chair Stahl's recommendation that they consider assigning a board member to attend the TAC meetings to represent the board and really to help bring feedback of the TAC to the board. So I'm hoping this is a really good direction. We'll give it a good college try for 1 full year and then maybe reassess and see where we're at.
Just though I realize when they take this to the board, it will be at our advance, so we will be at the thing too. So if they have questions or concerns, they'll be able to ask us also any questions too. So we'll hear it.
And I do like your idea about kind of some things so that we're not 2 steps behind. I get a little nervous about the quarterly meetings because I'm with you, like, okay, what did we say, 3 months ago? And so, but to Dave's point, keeping it succinct, because if you send me a 40-page packet the day before the meeting, I'm not gonna be able to get to it, right? So 1 to 2 pages, high level, here are the things we're talking, just, I think that'd be really helpful.
Great. So we will strive for that.
Great. Appreciate all the feedback from everybody. Next item is the Mountain Express 25-26 season, and that will be busy, going busy.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Just want to confirm you can hear me with audio.
We can hear you. Good.
Thank you so much. Awesome. So I just want to pause on this slide quickly. This is an update for the TAC. The board did provide direction for staff in the October meeting. So just wanted to let you know, like, decision's been made, and I'm excited to tell you why. Next slide, please, Rhonda. So you've seen these first 2 slides before, a summary of past service that we've provided and the performance of that service. I'd like to recognize that Arizona Snowball has fully funded the Mountain Express service for the past 10 years. And they are committed to funding it in year 11 coming up this winter. And I also wanted to note that Snowball is committed to relieving congestion on US 180. That is part of why Mountain Express was created in 2015, and it does continue to achieve that year after year. Next slide, please, Rhonda. However, Mountain Express is a low-performing route. And staff do recommend improvements to attract more riders. Recommendations include increasing the frequency from 30 minutes to about 20 minutes, offering weekend service in March when we're still getting a third of the winter snowfall and people are visiting for spring break. Both of those cost about $80,000 to complete just this winter alone. And then in addition to that, we're really recommending that we leverage community partnerships and double up on marketing efforts with an unknown cost to that. But those are kind of our goals going into, next slide, please, Rhonda. A conversation with Snowball and Coconino County and the City of Flagstaff in September to discuss both funding strategies, service levels, and the future of Mountain Express service. So again, Snowball is committed to an 11th season of service. We're so excited about that. However, they really want to match the same schedule and frequency as past years, shown on that first slide, and that's a lower cost, that $135,872 figure on the slide. They're not interested in providing additional funding for higher frequency or March weekend service that staff do think are necessary. They're very excited to partner on advertising, or marketing efforts rather, to just try to get more riders out there and leverage community partnerships that they also have. So at that September meeting, staff and partner agencies explored additional funding options to try to achieve the improvements that staff recommended. The transit tax was off the table because the service area is outside the collection boundary. It's also not identified on the 5-year transit plan. It's an off-budget consideration for the other agencies involved, county and city, in a tight financial year. So Mountain Line did offer at that meeting to ask the board of directors to discuss and consider the possible one-time use of advertising revenue to close the funding gap for this winter season. And so here on the board, this is what we brought in October to the board of directors. And there were 3 options. Number 1, we could only increase frequency. Number 2, we could increase frequency and March service and add March weekend service, or we could do nothing and keep service the way it is, knowing that Snowball was committed to that original funding plan. So in October, we did get approval from the board to utilize this one-time funding source, increase service for Mountain Express, and in addition to that, to ensure that Mountain Express service is included as part of our operational assessment and 5-year transit plan update that is scheduled to begin in January, and really look at the long-term design and funding of this program to ensure its viability into the future. So we're really excited to kind of kick up service, and hopefully you'll see a lot of community excitement about the marketing campaign that Snowball and Mountain Line is already working towards. So we'll be adding service in March. That's a really big deal. We've been collecting data on both of these improvements, frequency and March service, all contributing to the operational assessment recommendations for what this service should look like in the future. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Here.
Hey, Busy, it's Erin. Not a question, but a comment. So I'm just curious, or offering my help if you want to look at different ways to market it on campus, because I can tell you, I know we occasionally get calls. You always send it to me. I share it with my staff, but I think there may be other avenues. Connecting with Isha and ASNAU, and I know students, my own students would go up to Snowball, right? And so I think marketing the higher frequency and the extension into March, especially the spring break, is fantastic. And anything that I can do to support it on campus, let me know.
Thank you, Erin. Great ideas. Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
I have a question. So help me understand, the advertising revenue is being utilized because there's a gap. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that Snowball's not able to cover the cost of what the service is, so we're going to use revenue that you have from advertising to fill the gap. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, correct. So the advertising, thank you for that question, Gail. The advertising revenue is the only discretionary funding source available to Mountain Line for this program. And we do have the capacity in the budgeted advertising revenue to support this request this year.
Okay. I guess my concern is this just goes back to conversations that we've had about other items when it comes to businesses and encouraging them to utilize transit. It always comes down to money. And I just think we need to, I don't know what the answer is. This is obviously a temporary Band-Aid, but I think that we need to address this because, I mean, it's hard for businesses to put out this additional money to encourage to ride the transit, but yet there's this huge gap. Anyway, I guess it's more of a comment. I'm glad you found the money, but hopefully we can get a long-term solution to some of these issues.
Thank you, Gail.
If I may speak a little bit to that point, yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about the risk of doing this as a one-time Band-Aid is the language I used, to really fill this gap. And it is concerning, right? You're encouraging the public to adapt or adopt a transit program that's actually in jeopardy at risk, right? So Arizona Snowball is committed to continuing to pay the baseline of 135,000 and change, which gets us to the 30-minute frequency from December through February. Mountain Line believes it's really important that we demonstrate how increasing from 30 minutes to, I call it 20, is called a 23-minute service, and getting service in March really changes behaviors of drivers and visitors in our community, and encourages that ongoing use of the transit program. We have the advertising revenues that come in on an annual basis. They generally, they go into a general fund that is on reserve. We call it our rainy day fund. And so the board enabling us to take a little bit of that money to close this gap, we believe is an investment in ourselves. We believe it demonstrates to our private partner on this, the value of that program, because I don't know that they agree that the program continues to be valuable for their delivery plans. Mountain Line believes it's extremely valuable for the community we serve. And so remember, we started this whole program in an effort to mitigate traffic on that roadway. We think it continues to contribute to that. And if we can get to 23 minutes and make that a sustainable program, we really believe we will not just change behaviors for a year, but for many years, year over year, for visitors and community members alike. The operational assessment that Busy spoke to or included in her description, it is a study that we have just kicked off. We are in the process right now of determining from something like 10 different vendors, which vendor provides the best value for doing this study. We call it an operational assessment. It includes lots of elements, but one of the elements we put in there is Mountain Express. And one of the reasons we felt it was valuable to put in there is because we think we keep making the argument about what service to Arizona Snowball should look like seasonally, what it should cost and who should pay for it. But we want someone else to come in and affirm that from an outside perspective. We think that that's really important. And Gail, to your point, the goal is to use this year to develop a funding plan that is sustainable. So there is nothing preventing the city of Flagstaff potentially from using other funds to help pay for this program. We cannot direct transit funds to it. There is nothing that says that Coconino County couldn't come up with money given time to contribute to this. I think again, this came down to a last minute it's not really last minute, but it was a decision we needed to get to timely, and we didn't feel like we wanted to waver on whether or not to do this in planning it now while we waited for the county to figure out if they had discretionary funds that they could apply, or to figure out if there's other resources that could supply these funds. And so that's really where the decision came from, just to give you a little more background. But we know this is a one-time effort. We are very clear with Arizona Snowball, the city and the county, who were all at this meeting about that. And everyone is committed to using the operational assessment to conduct additional conversations about, one, what should service really look like? And two, how does it get funded?
For sure. Heather, I appreciate your comments. It's $250,000 for a seasonal service. and encouraging businesses to utilize this service. Like, I mean, I'm struggling with how do you promote this with businesses? I mean, it's kind of similar to the situation we've talked about the airport and what that would cost if we were to add those different service lines. And I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Gail.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on into the next item, which is revised organizational structure and health.
So good morning once again. This is not the first time you've seen this, and it has gone to the board for adoption. But I wanted to circle back to you because when we presented this in September, my timeline's running together a little bit. But the last time we met, I believe, was September. So I think we brought this to you. You didn't have the framework document. And I know you now have that. I think it was sent to you after that meeting and before the board meeting. But I wanted to circle back to you and just confirm the board did adopt the organizational structure plan and the framework plan. But I always want to know that we resolved and answered any questions or remarks that you have. So I do have the PowerPoint presentation. We've already gone through it. There's nothing new in it. So I'm happy to go through it, but most importantly, I wanted to check in with you, confirm one, that the board did adopt it. The conversation with the board was ensuring that not just they agreed with adoption, but as we implement it, that it is clearly identified in each budget and each financial plan where the org structure has changed that budget request year over year. That we are being very clear and intentional as we add positions, that we're tying them to performance triggers and not just because some arbitrary timeline said it was time to add them. So that was the feedback that we received from the board. We are committed to doing that. That's how we set our budget. This just gave us the overarching framework of making decisions. So again, wanted to come back to you now that you've had time to review the report and just confirm if you had questions that we should answer before we move forward.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments?
Hello, this is Michelle. I have a quick question. I noticed in the original structure that the TAC was included, and it's not in the new one. Is that where does TAC play into it at all, or is it just a whole separate entity from the organization structure?
I appreciate that. I definitely was an oversight on my part that I didn't capture it. I would guess it's an oversight on our contractors' perspective as well. We will get it added back and show it similar. I'm going to go to the next slide because on this slide, we have left off the TAC. They are a reporting body to the CEO and general manager, and we will make sure that they are added back. So that was just oversight. It was not intentional.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, we just.
There's a line there.
Is there a line?
So the dotted lines, because all of you work in positions where you can understand this, the dotted lines represent all the things that the federal government say have to report to the CEO. So the position doesn't have to report to the CEO, but the position has the authority to go directly to the CEO because that topic is so important that the CEO must be readily available to discuss it. So all those dotted lines just go to other positions that don't directly report to the CEO position. Things like the DBE liaison has to have a direct line to the CEO, which is Heather Higgins, procurement and contracts, reports to the finance director, doesn't report to the CEO, but we have to show in the org structure this dotted line to ensure that FTA can see evidence that they have direct access to me for those issues. So the TAC is not on this.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you. The next item is virtual power purchasing agreement, and the CEO back up.
Great, thank you, Chair. Again, pausing on this slide, this is an update to the TAC. The board did provide direction in the past, but it's a really great opportunity, so I'm excited to share it with you today. Next slide, please, Rhonda. So NAU's been working for over a year on an intergovernmental agreement It's kind of outlined here, the main bullet points of it, authorizing NAU to issue that non-binding solicitation on behalf of collaborators listed here. And the solicitation is exploring proposals for clean energy projects. What our goal, stewardship of resources, we do identify being exemplary community partners and sustainability. So really just following in line with that identified goal and objective of Mountain Lions seemed really to dovetail into this concept and agreement. So there, and under the second bullet, I do want to identify that the first option, that virtual power purchase agreement, those would be projects in other states. And then the second option would be projects that green the APS electricity sources. So two different options. Next slide, please, Rhonda. This timeline shows next steps once the IGA is signed, and it has been signed, so we are moving forward with this. Everything in yellow is done at no cost to Mountain Line. NAU has taken on the full cost burden for this exploratory stage of collecting solicitations for clean energy projects. Each collaborator has the option to stop participating in the consortium at any time, including at the very end, very bottom there, that shortlist review, you know, by the time we make a decision on the final project, any collaborator can say, I'm choosing not to participate, you know, and not continue forth on the project investment. And if the solicitation does result in an economically feasible renewable energy project that the collaborators want to pursue and Mountain Line wants to pursue with collaborators, staff will return to the board of directors and request authorization to proceed on the following steps. So following steps are everything below that yellow box. And that's really choosing whether or not to move forward with the collaborators on a selected project. So Mountain Line says, board, we recommend that we do participate in this project, and but they have the final decision. Whether we equally split that $60,000 fee for legal expenses and other services that are conducted after selection of the project. And we would also need to draft a new IGA for the project, cost sharing agreements, get that fully reviewed by all parties. You know, that's a long process. So really, like at this point where we're, you know, signing this IGA, it's a no cost, low commitment, low risk opportunity to even just look at what projects are out there, what might work for Mountain Line, but no commitment again. So next slide, this is my last slide. This is how a power purchasing consortium works. So number one on the top right, showing that Mountain Line, the buyer, is still getting power from APS. That remains the same regardless of any energy project that we choose, if we choose an energy project. Number two shows the possible future step for board approval if we find a feasible project that we want to invest in, signing that agreement, you know, getting that renewable energy project online, likely construction costs, something like that. And then number three shows the project selling electricity to the grid. And on the bottom right is kind of a risk and reward concept detailed in a couple bullets. So again, all of that is future concepts for decision making, but I just want to provide an overview on what that looks like. There is an opportunity for Mountain Line to make money or to lose money. Again, that is not the decision we're making that the board made in the past month. It's really just exploring options. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Thank you, Busy.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is review of the draft board business agenda, which the first item is the FY25.
I don't have the fiscal year 25 annual report for you. That said, we are reviewing it at the joint meeting, which all of you are invited to attend. You will receive it in advance of the meeting. Megan and I have worked tirelessly to ensure that it's accurate. That did require us to audit some of the accounting entries over the last 2 years to ensure that they're accurate. So we're both confident That when we bring that report to you, when we do the fiscal year 25 audit, it's going to be clean and it's going to allow us to move smoothly through those processes. So I apologize, we don't have the report for you today. We are reconciling revenues actually as where we're caught right now with getting our federal revenues all entered into our accounting system. So I apologize, we don't have the report, but we will have it at the joint meeting and you will always see that with the packet in advance of the meeting and be able to participate in that presentation during.
Next, we have progress reports. The first four items do not have any presentations. If you have any questions, comments, or do want to see a presentation, we'd have to bring it back for further reading. But then we have summary of current events.
Great. We have a couple of things there. We've talked a little bit about the next meeting. The next meeting is November 19th. It is here in this room. It is a joint meeting of the board and TAC. We lovingly call it the strategic advance. We do have about a 30 to 40-minute regular business meeting at the front end of that, and it will be to handle the three items. We've talked here today about two of them, the TAC restructure recommendation, the annual report, and the last item is going to be a recommendation to award the workforce housing project. So we have gone through the procurement process. We went through final selection. We have a preferred developer that we want to work with, and we're working on the contract agreement right now. So I'm not at liberty to disclose publicly who that vendor is or developer is, but we will be asking the board to approve that. It will be public information at the November 19th meeting. So those will be the three business items that we'll handle at that meeting. I encourage you all to come for the entire meeting, again, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Once the business meeting concludes, we are going to move into our strategic planning session. We have a contractor that's coming in to do that. Many of you may have received an invite to participate in a stakeholder interview. I know most of our board members were invited to participate in that, to really look at what are our strategic goals now, what should those goals be as we move into the future, and then how do we support those with objectives, key performance indicators, and a new one for us this year is going to be talking about how the strategic plan ties to the CEO evaluation and development goals. So that's something new that we're trying to do with this strategic plan, is to ensure not just that it ties to what are we doing as staff and laying out if you will, bookends for how we do our work, but also how do we measure it? And then for the first time, how does the CEO get measured for delivery of that strategic plan? So very excited to bring the contractor in and get that process underway and all of your value. I do have a couple of current events to share with you outside of those two announcements. We did have other November anniversaries, and one of those individuals is in the room. James, I'm going to skip right to James, runs all of our TAC meetings from the tech perspective, and he is celebrating his 4th anniversary here with us at Mount Wine as IT specialist. James, very much. Also celebrating Manthea Gonzalez, who works for MetroPlan and then because we employ MetroPlan Mountain Line, celebrating 4 years as a transportation planner. Joseph Watt, celebrating 4 years as a full-time bus operator. Danny Barbie is one of our 2 trainers, celebrating his 9th anniversary. And Jed Davis, our other trainer, celebrating 13 years. Jed and Danny have graduated 20 staff members through our CDL training program in the last 6 months. It's a lot of training. So we definitely couldn't be doing it without them. We couldn't do it without all of these staff members, but that's the most relevant one we wanted to show. Briefly, I don't know if you noticed in coming in the building today, we now have our own little library outside of our building. That little library was sponsored by a Girl Scout from Troop 6520. Violet Baca actually contacted us and said, bus riders need books, and so offered to construct and build as a project a little library here. It's fantastic. If you haven't stopped and seen it, it's very sweet. It's a great idea, and I have seen people using it. So I love that it's here at the Downtown Connection Center, where it encourages people to share books. Lastly, if you can see what's on the screen, I was recently asked about incidents and complaints involving our K through 12 audience. And so I put this report together to share specifically with the individual that asked it, but I thought this story was pretty powerful, so I wanted to share it with all of you. I can see at least one person maybe not seeing the screen clearly, and I apologize. Happy to share it after the meeting as well. But what we did is we tried to capture student ridership. And I want to clarify that student ridership is people with passes. I cannot track how many times a student gets on and pays with cash. I cannot track how often they get on and buy a day pass. These are strictly those passes that we issue to an individual. And prior to July of 2024, they were all blended in a K through 12 semester pass. And then starting in July, we actually have FUSD with identifiable passes that we can call them out separately. So what you can see on here is that we've experienced a 38% increase in FUSD ridership, and that is the first quarter of last fiscal year to the first quarter of this year. So almost a 40% increase just in that one quarter. Overall, we've seen a 17% increase of student ridership in general, those outside of the K through or FUSD program. But the reason I was asked for this information is there was this perception or this concern that students don't use it because of the number of issues they have on the vehicle. So we went through our database, and in the 18 months that we have had this program running with FUSD, we've received 3 complaints. And I want to say that we only can track complaints that say a student. The descriptor has to tell us that the person making the complaint is a student. Otherwise, we have no idea. So we have 3 complaints that we could qualify as involving a student. I cannot tell you what school they go to. I can't tell you that the trip that the complaint generated was to or from the school. I can tell you that we had 3 complaints involving students, which, as you can see by the percentage, is an extremely small percentage of complaints compared to the number of riders using the system. Similarly, we've received remarks that it's dangerous, that the students don't feel safe, that there's interactions with a large portion of our riders that make them feel unsafe. And while that may be true, we actually have only had 2 incidents that involved the police or an investigation over the same 18-month period. So we really want this message out there that it is a successful program. Students are successfully using the system, and Mountain is managing complaints. We are looking into them. We do investigate them. We do a lot of feedback. And I will tell you, the 3 complaints I illustrate here are founded complaints. I won't tell you how many we received that are unfounded. We have videos on all the buses. The supervisors all wear videos. So we're able to investigate 99% of the complaints that we receive. And as you can see from the 3, there's not very many that were founded complaints. Similarly, with the police incidents, we at least had 2 incidents above and beyond these 2 that the police were involved in, and they were both completely unfounded. There was no grounds for the complaint that was made. So while there is a perception about transit, we believe this story helps say that perception is not accurately what's going on with our ridership and our vehicles. But I just want to share this report to you. And then lastly, it was recently Halloween, and we had a number of staff show up in these really great costumes. The photo of the sloth up in the right-hand corner, that is a driver. He was not allowed to wear his costume on his head while he drive, but when it was on, it was terrible cute. So a wide variety of staff participating. Bottom lower left, Bob Ross is actually our IT manager. The chicken in the middle of the top, she is one of our transit supervisors. The rock and roll king at the bottom is one of our drivers. And then we have a couple of MetroPlan employees in here promoting safety with a detour cone and a safe walking sign. She even had a flashing light on the top. It was fantastic. And a pedestrian up on the left-hand side also. And so appreciate staff who take the time to participate in these events. Staff even had a little pumpkin carving contest here in the building that they participated in. So it's always fun to see people get together and enjoy these holidays. And James is actually in here too, but James, you have to remind me, where's your costume? A Fallout guy. So, Rhonda is a mummy, right? So lots of different participation. I did tell our Dodgers fan that that's not actually a costume if he's truly a Dodgers fan and it just won the World Series. That's everything I have for current events. I'm sorry, Jackie has something that I missed. Oh, right. This weekend is Stuff the Bus. So we are joined with City of Flagstaff, Coconino County, and Flagstaff Family Food Center to do a food drive this weekend. The bus will actually be parked at Plaza Way on Saturday only, but the Stuff the Bus event in coordination with our partners is both days at 2 Safeway locations, is what I heard on the radio this morning, at Plaza Way and Cedar Avenue. So If you have a chance to stop by and say hello, whether you want to donate or not, we will appreciate it. We'll have staff at the bus at all times on Saturday. We love this event. This event actually came out of a team member back in the early 2000s, and we've conducted it ever since then. It's morphed and grown in that we don't just conduct it in-house anymore, but we certainly love being able to give back to the community. So if you have a moment, stop by and say hello. And thanks, Jeff, for reminding me.
Thank you. Jane, congratulations on your 4 years. Yeah, I am a fall fan too, so. Any other questions as we wrap up this meeting, comments, of the meeting? If not, she did mention, but a reminder that we're meeting in just a few weeks on Wednesday, November 19th, will be the joint meeting. And we'll see everybody in attendance there. If there's no other questions or comments, I will call it we adjourn the meeting.
And if you're sticking around for the ADOT luncheon that's supposed to start in an hour, you're welcome to hang out here. There's some really great coffee shops in walking distance if you want. But please don't feel like you have to vacate the room. You're welcome to hang around.
Yeah, I could be back, since we're out so early, I'm gonna walk my house and get my work.